here with composer, friend, fellow Ohioan, Nicole Piunno. Nicole, thank you for coming on our little show.
Hi, Shawnee.
Appreciate you tremendously. I wanted to kind of talk about your new music, your process, your catalog, and everything. But I think, like, for the audience, some of the audience probably knows you well and knows your work and maybe even knows you personally. But I'm also hoping to expose your music to a broader audience of people who might not know you and might not know your story. So I'm wondering if you could just kind of tell us the official version of how you went from, essentially aspiring orchestral trumpet performer to household name composer, Nicole Piunno. So in your own words, maybe just give us kind of a little bit of the backstory there.
Sure thing. Yeah, this is something I've talked about a lot, and a lot of people know. Some people might not. People seem to find it interesting for some reason. I guess trauma stories have that effect. But my desire was to be an orchestral trumpet player, and in undergrad, I developed an injury I didn't know was an injury yet, and so I found out about this, how deep the injury was, when I was at the University of Michigan working on a master's in performance for trumpet, and had to leave once I figured out what the injury was. It was a tear to my upper lip muscle here, right in the middle, and I had to leave to go have surgery. And so during that time, I lost to me, I felt like I lost everything that I had been building and working for. And so I wasn't sure what was next. During my undergrad, I fell in love with music. So thankfully, and I say it that way, I fell in love with music specifically. I mean, music as a whole, not just one field in music or one aspect of music. In high school, I think I fell in love with trumpet. I liked playing the high parts and the hard parts. That was what I liked, and that's why I went into music. But in undergrad, I fell in love with music, and so I took everything very seriously. And looking back on it, I'm glad that I didn't too much hyper focus on performance, because I would probably have never been able to do what I ended up doing. I had a professor tell me when I was getting ready to graduate, I had various professors and people tell me what they thought I should do next, because people like to do that. I had somebody tell me I should be going to music history next, because I like music history so much. I had my professor tell me I should go into theory. I had my cooperating teacher for education. I was doing my student teaching at the end, and he was a history professor, so he didn't know me as a trumpet player. He just knew me in the classroom. He was a really good teacher. That's why I wanted him to be my observation teacher. And at the end, I told him I'm like, I'm going to Michigan to do trumpet. He's like, what? Like, no, like, you need to be a teacher. You belong in the classroom. And so I had all these people telling me different things. There was one, though, David Ludwig. He's currently out in Juilliard right now. But at the time, he was at Curtis, and he worked the composition program that I was involved with every summer. That I'm so thankful I did that. If I didn't do that, I probably wouldn't be a composer. And he took me aside when he found out what I was doing next, and he's like, no. You don't want to be a trumpet player. You need to be a composer. And I was like, thanks, but I'm set. So, like, all of that to say, like, my heart, it wanted trumpet really badly. And it made sense for me to go that route at the time. But I did end up having a career-ending injury. I did relearn how to play over the course of 3 years. And even when I left Michigan, my goal was always to go back. I was like, this is temporary. I'm like, I am a stubborn, you know me, Shawnee. I am stubborn.
No.
Not you. Can't tell at all. I'll have my lip re-sewn back together. I will relearn how to play, and I'm going to come back even better. Life had different plans. It showed me a path of composition that I wasn't expecting, and it felt like the right thing to do. And so it's a hard thing to explain. That's the best I can explain it, is I felt like I was supposed to go down this new path, not knowing where it was going to lead. So I ended up switching gears and going to school for composition, and just every step after that was a fight to love a new thing. And it wasn't that I didn't like composition. I obviously loved it enough to do it leading up to all of this. But when you go through a traumatic experience, and the injury was traumatic in multiple ways, but when you lose that, it does things to a person. It changed me as a human. I'm a completely different person today than I was pre-injury. I view the world differently. I write music differently because of it. Everything's different. And so, I don't know. But it's a new path, and I learned to love it along the way. And once I fully committed to this is it. This is what you're doing now. Let go of the past. Once I did that, things actually got a lot better. Got a lot better.
I don't know the answer to this, but I was kind of thinking, like, in the beginning of this process, like, you probably had to convince yourself, like, that I am a composer, or like I am a good composer. Is there like a piece in your like early catalog, or maybe even like your after you got out of school catalog, that you felt like, okay, this is the piece that kind of like convinced yourself that you were a composer? Is there a certain like title that comes to mind, whether it's chamber music or whatnot, something that you're just like, you know what, like, I proved to myself with this piece that I do feel like I am a composer?
Yeah, it took me a long time to even put that label on myself, because for so long I was Nicole the trumpet player. It would have been better just to be Nicole, and then better, one step down, better to say Nicole the musician, but I didn't do that. It was Nicole the trumpet player. But composer, I still, even throughout school, felt more comfortable hanging out with the brass players than the composers. I felt like that's where I belonged. So it wasn't probably till after 2 masters and a doctorate. I'll go with probably my dissertation. So went through Wind and Whispers. It was my first ever wind ensemble piece, actually, and I did it for my dissertation. And it won a competition at Michigan State, and I felt good about the piece because that was the first piece where I was struggling so much with the purpose of composition and the purpose of music, and whether that's a high enough purpose to dedicate one's life to, that all of those years of struggle I was able to put into that piece and develop this new philosophy of why I do what I do. And so it had meaning in a way that a lot of pieces before that didn't. And I think that's what made me finally feel like a composer, I guess.
I think you're a composer.
Thank you.
Before we get to these new pieces we're going to talk about, I was kind of just wondering, like, with your whole backstory, your overall catalog, you think about titles like Radiant Joy, Safely Rest, Dance the Joy Alive. Is there a theme of resilience kind of baked into your music? Do you feel like that's just there because of what you went through, or am I just kind of like reading into it too much?
No, you're not. Suffering is a huge part of my philosophy of writing. I think suffering is... People ask me what my greatest inspiration is when I go to residencies and you work with high schoolers and stuff. What's your greatest inspiration? And a lot of times I just say pain and suffering. It's they go, what? Then you explain, but pain and suffering is what gives you that resilience, and that's been a huge part of my life. So it's the way I view the world now as well. Is suffering is a huge part of it.
So basically, you had to kind of go through your own version of that to kind of have this ability to write maybe something more joyous on the other side. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, sometimes. Sometimes it means that. Sometimes it's a fight to get to the joy. I don't actually feel that way. Sometimes it's a hope that the joy does exist. Sometimes it's rarely, but sometimes I truly do feel the love and joy, and I want to express that. I would say more times than not, when I'm sitting at my desk, I'm not in that state. I'm in a darker state for at least up until now. Maybe I'm changing gears now, but up until this point in my life, I used to say my memoir would be called The 20-Year Eye Twitch, because Everything just doesn't go well. But I'm fighting to find that. And that's why I put it in the music, so that I can feel it. Because I know it exists, even if I don't feel it. So if I can put it in there, I'm giving myself that feeling that I want to have, even if I don't have it.
Well, I think your music's giving people a lot of joy for what it's worth.
PB Jam.
Okay, so yeah, no doubt. So, okay, looking ahead to these three pieces I want to talk about today, I want to start with this piece, Frostfire. And I guess kind of like it's two questions at once. When you first sit down to write a piece, what is like your maybe your normal process? And then a piece like this that's for younger band with a professional trumpet soloist, were you able to like do your normal process in writing this piece, or did you have to find some other process to accommodate the kind of unusual pairing of professional trumpet player, younger band kind of accompaniment?
Right. Well, with young band, the process is completely, I shouldn't say completely, it's different than with the pieces I normally write that are more advanced and I have more freedom. That process is a little different. It's kind of like I have to switch, like flip a switch, and I go into that mode. It's hard to explain how to do it, but I know how to do it. And I go like, that's a Nicole that we need to put over there for a little bit. And I'm still writing the piece. It's my music still, no matter what grade level, it sounds like me. But there's aspects I have to put away that I can't tap into. And I go into more of an educational mode. I think that's important. Like, I want students to leave that piece having improved somehow on their instrument. I think that's very important. Now with Frostfire, since it was for professional level soloists and beginning band, that was extra challenging for me to wrap my head around, because I want them to be coherent, the two sides of this thing. I want the trumpet part to relate to the band part and vice versa, so that it sounds like a coherent piece of music and not like the band is doing this grade one thing and the soloist is in another world, because that wouldn't be a good piece of music. And so how do you do that when you have, like, they specifically told me to try to stick to B flat major, and you have to have percussion going the whole time. You know, I have these constraints on me. I didn't quite stick to B flat major, but for the most part, I tried.
I won't tell if you don't.
It's fine. Concert G flats are fine. So it took me a while to not like be upset at everything that I was writing that wasn't going to work. But eventually I figured it out. But that was very challenging, yeah.
And how do you like envision the piece being used? Like, how do you think people are gonna like look at this piece and be like, oh, this is gonna be great for like this type of concert, this type of use, like touring, recruitment, like maybe the faculty member playing? Like, how do you see the uses of this kind of like unfolding over time with this first kind of iteration of it?
Oh, for sure. So that was the point of the piece. So when I got this request, my first thought was, how in the world is anybody going to write that? But I liked their purpose behind it, because their purpose was they want to get a professional in there, preferably a teacher, so that the students can perhaps sign up for lessons, to take lessons with that teacher or any teacher really, and hear what the instrument can do, because as we all know, the more advanced you get, students tend to have more fun the better they are on their instrument. And so they can hear, like, oh, I can sound like that someday if I keep going. I want to sound like that quicker. So I should take lessons, like that kind of a thing. And definitely recruitment. I've had a lot of people say that they plan on using it for that, and they're going to take it into classrooms and work that way and develop a relationship between maybe a college and these schools. I think that's awesome. Or private teachers, just independent private teachers and schools. And back to, so I remembered something I put in this one, because like I said, I think education is really important. You want students to like the piece. So I needed the band part to be a fun piece of its own right. And yet you want the trumpet part to not be this burden. Like, you want them to sound like they're a professional player. But you don't want it to. I can't just write anything though, because like think of the situation. Like, do you really want somebody shredding in the practice room for weeks on end to go play a grade one, like with a grade one band? Like that's unrealistic. That would be rude of me to do that. So you want them to sound really good with minimal work needed. So I had to write the trumpet part in a way that fits really well. And I took lip slurs because I think lip slurs are vital. I think the minute a student can play the notes in a lip slur, they should be doing lip slurs. So, like, the band has the lower octave lip slur, and then the soloists will do a more advanced upper level lip slur. That was a way to get some connection there, and so that the students could hear, like, I'm doing the same thing that soloist is doing, just a little, a little simpler, a little different, but it's the same thing, like, to get them excited in that way.
Well, I think what's going to help this piece is that the idea of it is kind of well thought out, and then the person writing the solo part has a well thought out and good understanding of the instrument. And I think those two things are really going to match up nicely and kind of help advance the cause with this idea. I know it's hoping to be a series of pieces, or there might be more, but this initial one I think is going to be set up really well for success, hopefully.
It looks that way. The Arizona State group is going to play it with their trumpet professor, Jamal Duncan's doing that this fall, which I'm really thankful for. That'll be a nice experience.
All right, so I want to move right along to your other piece, the march. And you've had this, like, I don't know if you're doing this on purpose or if it's just kind of been a byproduct, but you've had this, like, success with, like, kind of melodic aggregation and, like, pairing up, like, using other, like, you're writing original music, but there's elements of other melodies in the piece. So with this new march, there's some element of that. I know in Safely Rest there's some element of that, and that has been successful for you. Was that just kind of happenstance that with the march and the melodies, or do you like seeking out kind of melodic aggregation and using it as a basis and kind of expounding upon it, or what was your process kind of with that piece?
It was a little bit of a coincidence, but also that is just part of me too. So the request it was an interesting request, which is just what made me do it. They wanted a piece written for somebody that had passed away, an important member of their band. And typically with pieces like that, I think it through every time I get a request like that, and I'm very slow to say yes to those kind of pieces. But this one intrigued me because then they said, well, we would like a march. Whoa, that's new. I wasn't expecting that. Because what they wanted, and he specifically said to me when they were asking me for this commission, they said the reason we want you is because of your ability to combine life and death together, those two opposing things together. And they specifically said that, which told me that's, what my typical approach, one of them at least, is in line with what they want. That makes sense. And so they mentioned a hymn, which is what made hymns get in my mind. But the hymn, it didn't work out to use. And so I wanted to stay true to what they wanted, and I have a good knowledge of hymns to some degree. And so I went searching. I had a whole list of ones that I was going through, and I chose one that was it only spans a fourth. So it's not like an up and down kind of hymn. It's just a chant-like hymn, which I could make even more chant-like in the way I wrote it, which to me represented the death aspect. And then one that was really happy and jumpy and march-like, that to represent the life aspect, and putting those two things together. I do enjoy doing that, and it just worked out to do it with this piece.
I think the title really kind of underscores the whole thing too with Radiant Glory. I guess, what is your feeling on the march? A lot of composers I work with, I feel like, have kind of rejected the march form a little bit, like they don't want to be boxed into the form. Yeah. They can't achieve maybe the melodic interest that they're hoping to achieve. But you've written marches before, and I assume you'll write some more. Is it because of that, you talked about that kind of educational foundation, you want people to learn something? Do you just like marches? Do you feel like it's part of a well-rounded portfolio? What is your take on the march, since this piece is a march?
Right. I don't have strong feelings either way. I liked that it was something I don't have in that level of my catalog, and I was actually scared to do it because I hadn't written that level march before, and I like being a little scared when I do something, so I can grow. And so I just took it as a way to grow. And I don't love marches. I like some make me smile. I like the ones that make me smile. Like, that was cool. But I could do without them as well. But I understand that they are important, and so I'm not gonna criticize them either. And they're really great, especially with a grade 3 level for teaching style. I really like it for teaching style and articulation. I'm very big on that in all of my music, articulation. But
well, you wrote Articulate March, of course.
See, I don't hide it. So I think that's important. But I tried to stick to the form as much as I could. Some people might criticize me for having 2 introductions. So be it. I really wanted a slow introduction to give reverence to the sense of somebody had passed away. I thought that was important to put, even if it meant the form was going to be a little off. But I did try to stay to the form, and these melodies helped me keep that melodic aspect to it as well. So it's not fully traditional, but I also didn't want to go abandon it either and just, say goodbye. I'll close the march anyway.
I mean, there's been so much new music for winds written over the past 15 or 20 years, but the amount of marches is definitely at a minimum. So I think sometimes it can be a nice addition when we have marches written by prominent living composers for the idiom that just kind of helps grow
refreshing.
Grow the pool of available titles in that form. So I think you did good work writing a march. Okay, so I also want to talk about With Love and Grace and dive in a little bit, but that one has been pretty popular. I know a lot of people have been programming it and are enjoying hearing it. Why do you think that piece has spoken to so many people, and can you tell us a little bit about kind of where it came from?
Sure. I was at a residency this last year, and that was one of the pieces they played. They had multiple groups play my music, and that was one of them. And one of the students in the group invited a friend of his to come. I don't think he was a musician, but that he invited him to come to the concert. And afterwards, the student told me that his friend was going through a really hard time, and that's why he invited him to come to the concert, and that this friend of his hadn't cried in years, and that was the first time he had ever been able to cry in many years, and he thanked me. And I was moved by that. I wasn't expecting that. But that was nice. I think people, they feel things when they hear it, whether or not you want to, it makes you get in touch with certain emotions that are complicated. And the piece is not complicated. There's a simplicity to it, but there's a depth to the simplicity that I think is just enough, just the right amount to get to the heart of people for whatever reason. I personally, I think it's because I wrote it in a state where I was in that emotional state while writing it, and I put that in there, and this will be the first time on the Murphy Pod saying what I'm about to say.
Let's go. Okay.
Let's go.
We're having exclusive right now.
So this was a commission for Lake Travis High School to play at Midwest. And I wrote the piece, and before sending it to them, I had time. I like writing pieces. I like getting them done and letting them sit and breathe so that I can make all the edits before sending. I hate being rushed, but before I can send it. And I finished it, and I had time to write another piece if I needed to. Not a lot, but just enough. And I was hesitant to send it to them because I knew the piece was good. I knew I liked it. I knew it was well written and that they would be happy with it. At least I thought they would. But the fact that I really was open in my own emotions while writing it, having to hear it over and over again worried me, because I would have to relive all of this, what I was going through at the time. And so I really thought twice. I'm like, I could write another piece. I can just keep this to myself No one needs to know. But I thought that would be selfish to do that because I really thought that it was the right piece for that group to play. And so I sent it. And I wanted it to be special for them. And so, the title is, the piece is a musical letter, essentially. So you write your letter, whatever you say in that letter is what you want. And then at the end, you sign it with love and grace. And for them, I wanted them to bring love to the process of preparing for Midwest, to their classmates, to themselves, and grace, which involves forgiveness. And that means to their classmates and to themselves. And it could be a way of saying goodbye, too, because by the time you get to Midwest, that's their last performance. It's a goodbye performance, in a sense. You do all this work, and now they're signing off with love and grace. And so I just wanted them to be really into, the music-making process and being, loving. That's the best part about playing in a group, the community of it, and to bring love to it. For me, though, it's that sense of forgiveness and saying goodbye. That was for me. For them, it could have been that special occasion that it had, hollowed sense that the piece has. So it's different for everyone. I know that the students really loved it. They ended up playing it again for graduation, I heard, which was nice.
That is nice.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes they say you have to kind of give up to go up, and it sounds like you had to give up a little bit of that hesitation you had about the piece to kind of go up and send it out. So I'm glad you got comfortable with that.
Thanks.
Okay, so I want to move on to something a little bit lighter. We try to do something kind of funny for everyone on the show, and I know you are a big connoisseur, a big peanut butter connoisseur. So I'm gonna give you 5 different Reese's products. You're not gonna know what I'm gonna tell you, and you're gonna blind rank them. So I'm gonna give you one. You're gonna tell me out of 5. 1 is the best. 5 is the worst. You're not gonna know what's coming next. 1 through 5. I'll give you 5 Reese's products, and we will get to the bottom of the definitive Piunno hierarchy of rankings. Okay, are you ready?
Oh, I'm born ready.
Okay, I'm just gonna start out with something kind of, in my opinion, middle of the road. The Reese's peanut butter cups, just the miniature ones, though. The little small ones that you get that are just the gold wrapper. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yep.
Where would you put that on your 1 through 5 scale without knowing what's coming next?
4.
Ooh, okay. Next one. Okay, let me set the scene here. It's Christmas morning. You come downstairs in your stocking, and you come upon the Reese's Christmas tree shape thing. Where does that fall for you on the hierarchy?
3.
3. Okay, slightly above the cups. Okay. What about just straight up Reese's Pieces? They're like M&Ms, but you're more poppable. E.T. loved them. You don't see them as much. 5. You hate Reese's Pieces.
Nope, don't like them.
I kind of like them. I hate to say it. It's a nice, because you're so used to M&Ms and you get the peanut butter and you're like,
well, give me the peanut butter M&Ms.
Oh, I see. Okay. Aren't you a loyalist?
Oh, well. I
guess not. Apparently not. This is an M&M podcast now. Okay. What about, where was I going with this next one? Okay, it's February, National Singles Awareness Month, and you get that nice heart-shaped Reese's, Where is that?
That was, someone gave me one of those, and it was surprisingly really good, but I don't know what you're going to say next.
That's just the thing.
I only have 2 and 1 open. Oh, I'm going to go with 2.
It's all about the peanut butter ratio,
Oh, it is. It is. Yes.
Okay,
There's something about the edges, too, but go on.
Okay. I say this one for last. In my opinion, this is the GOAT, the Easter egg Reese's thing, the big oval.
1.
Number 1.
Hands down.
Okay. I'm glad we have consensus there.
Oh, yeah.
Now, just as an aside, okay, now we have our official list. Just as an aside, where do you come down on the football shaped one? It's basically the egg, but they say it's a football. You see it around the Super Bowl.
I have never had one.
Okay, they make those. It's essentially the same shape as the egg, but it is a little bit more oblong, kind of the shape of a football.
I'm willing to try it.
Well, send them to Nicole, anyone, if you're watching and you have the football shaped Reese's.
Have you had the big cup? Because that was really surprisingly quite good.
I am concerned to commit myself to such portions. That's why I like the little ones. I mean, I still have like 7, but I feel
But
better about myself doing it in drips and drabs and sitting down.
you gotta
drinking.
try the
Is the
big
big
cup.
cup?
It's
Is that your low key
it, it
recommendation?
it's tied with the egg in
Wow.
my heart of hearts.
But you can get the
It
big
was
cup
that good.
anytime though.
Which is also, I don't understand why we don't have the egg all year. So
Like, McDonald's they were only serving breakfast till 10, but then they serve it all day now. Like, the
yeah,
demand is there, Reese's. Just
it's
make the
there.
egg 12 months.
Yep.
Okay, I'm glad you indulged me in my Reese's list. Okay, I have just a couple more questions here as we wrap it up. But I guess for you, like, you've been through these experiences that you described. Like, maybe could you just, like, encourage maybe people who are listening? Like, maybe there's somebody who has to make a transition in their life. Maybe they're transitioning from undergraduate music institute to their first job. Maybe they're a music teacher and their school is going through some kind of budget problems and now they have to teach orchestra and they don't know how to do that. Or maybe they've even, maybe their school is getting rid of the arts, or maybe they are in a stage in their life where they just have to rethink their artistic identity. Like, can you just kind of encourage people about their ability to kind of recast themselves in a new light? Because you've done it pretty successfully.
Well, it's okay to struggle. That's the thing. You feel like this pressure on you to like figure it out really fast and adapt really fast and be happy about it. You're not allowed to not be happy about it. There's like a pressure that you put on yourself that I don't think you should necessarily. Like, you should just allow it to feel really bad for as long as it's going to feel bad. But it's a cliche, and I hate cliches. But like that, find your why. Like, let me say it in a way that's not cliche, hopefully. But like that, the reason that you are, let's say you're teaching or writing music, getting to the bottom of why, what you're trying to transition to, is important, and I would argue important for other people, not yourself. I think forgetting about yourself is actually very important, and putting your focus on what good will this build in the world by doing this new thing. That's what ultimately convinced me to stay, like to do what I do, because I wasn't enjoying writing music, so it wasn't for me. But I recognized a skill set that I had, and an ability to view the world in a certain way that can put truth in front of people, and help them see in new ways that would make them more encouraged in this world. And that gave me a purpose. Like, that is important to give to people. And we all have that. Like, not everyone can be, if you think of it as a body, like, not everybody can be like the eyes, and not everybody can be the feet that walk, but you can be the pinky toe. Like, but you need it all. Like, and we're all meant to do something. And so, like, finding whatever that something is and trying to find a way to actually commit to it, and learning why you do it, because that'll get you through it. If it's the music that you play, like, if you're let's say you're transitioning from somewhere where you got to play anything you wanted, and then you're going somewhere where you don't know the music as well because now you're teaching choir instead of band or something. Like, if it's about the music, you're gonna struggle. Like, in that case, like, find the thing that's the common denominator. It's the humans that you're interacting with. Like, what can you give those human beings? Just finding that thing, that why, for why you're doing it.
I mean, what I'm kind of hearing from you is that if you can find joy in serving others, you can find joy in yourself, right?
Well, they say, I mean, it's true. Like, if I go out and I'm in a really bad mood and I go buy something for myself, like, I feel a little bit better because I just bought a Reese egg. But if I go out and, like, I see somebody struggling, like, I was at the track the other day and this poor kid was trying to put up a net so he could shoot soccer balls into it, and he couldn't. It kept falling. And I was like, I'll be there soon, like, because I'm running around the track. And I'm like, hey, buddy, do you need some help? And he's like, yeah. And so, like, I helped him put up. Like, I felt better after doing that than I would have had I gone out and bought that Reese egg. That's a really bad example. But, like,
no, it's fair.
You do feel better when you do that. You wouldn't think it, but it seems to be true.
So kind of in closing, kind of looking toward the future and other projects that you're either working on now, that you're going to pursue, that you're hoping to pursue, what do you think is maybe like one or two things you've learned about your creative identity in this whole process we've described leading up to today that you think are going to like behoove you and buoy you into this next kind of phase of your compositional career? What are a couple things that you feel like you've really developed and you're looking forward to kind of utilizing to get to the next stage here?
I like the word behooved.
Thank you. It kind of just came to me right now.
Came to you. It's an underused word.
Mm-hmm.
Going forward, I'm very interested. My desire is to do larger scale works, more in depth works where I'm given. I really like having freedom. I really do. I have so many things I want to talk about and say and put into music, and I haven't always gotten all of the chances to do that, but I'm ready to do it. And so I want to go that route next. And I wrote my first symphony a few years ago, and it really changed me. That experience changed. It's hard to explain all the ways it changed me, but it changed me. It gave me a freedom I hadn't felt. And once you feel that freedom, it's hard to go back. And so I want to keep pushing myself, and I don't like being bored. And so if I feel like I've done things to a certain degree, at a certain level, I don't want to just keep doing them. I need to push something. I need to keep expanding. So that's where I go. I'm pretty private in the subject matter, just because the writing process for me is so personal that that's mine. Like the writing, like I think more deeply about everything than people realize, just because of how private I am during it. But I have subjects and things that I want to delve into, and then once the piece is written, or at least partially written, that's when I'm more open about what it is. Because like once I send off a piece like that, now it's yours, Shawnee, in the world. Like that's your piece now. It's no longer mine. My grip is open. But during a writing process, I like a tight grip just for me, to work out questions I have, to work out the meaning of the piece so that it can truly be what it needs to be. Like I'm reading books right now about some things that I want to write about. When I was writing that first symphony, I read like 10 Van Gogh books before I even, cause it had a Van Gogh aspect. Before I even put pen to paper, I had 10 books I was reading. I know more about sunflower anatomy than you ever want to know. Just because I delve into the subject matter so deeply. So pieces where you can do that, like it's a learning thing for me. It changes me as a person when I get to write pieces like that, and so I want to do more of that.
Well, I think your whole story has been one of like personal growth, so it makes a lot of sense to me to hear that you're interested in growing further as part of your process. So that really seems to check out based on everything you've shared today.
Checks out.
Okay, well, thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed kind of getting to chat with you in this setting, and
I know it's nice to see you. I only get to see you at Midwest.
I'm hoping to see you in a couple months here. A couple months from filming this. Okay, thank you for coming on. I appreciate you tremendously.
Thanks, Sean.